Hello everybody, I am the Dark Conservatarian and welcome back to Strike Force. Later on today I'm going to be interviewing Tomb Wraith, aka Tender Shipping Fan, aka Zoe on her politics and just politics in general, and possibly be looking for her as like an honorary co-host of the show, possibly. But for right now, the news. I was hoping that somebody would come and join in this stream with me to help co-host, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Just my luck. I guess that's kind of expected. I mean, no offense to the co-hosts, by the way, but I guess I can get kind of long-winded on these articles. But in the news, more Christian Baker versus LGBT person drama going out today as the battle for private property rights, or as the conservative religious right like to put it, religious liberty, as they like to frame it. As there is a call, as Christian Baker, I think it's Jack Phillips, is being targeted by Colorado despite Supreme Court's cake ruling. That's how the article is framing it right here, cake ruling. But here, I'm going to like screen share it to let you see what's it all about. All right. So, yeah, this has been constantly been going down ever since like the mid-Obama years. Christian Bakers versus LGBT people on the right to deny service. I mean, it's not just relegated down to cakes. I mean, it's relegated down to, there are flower shops as well that get targeted on this issue, and I'm sure other businesses, but they don't make as much headlines as, say, a Christian baker who dared to deny service to an LGBT person. And on my stance of this, I believe that it is a business owner's private property rights to deny service to anyone based on any reason that they please. Be it an atheist wants to deny service to a religious person, or a religious person wants to deny it to an atheist, or a gay person wants to deny it to, to a religious person, and so on and so forth. But you get my drift. Everyone can deny anyone, every business owner of every religion, race, creed, and whatnot, So anyway, this is from the Daily Signal. Colorado targets Christian Baker again despite Supreme Court's cake ruling. The Colorado Civil Rights Commission is going after Christian Baker Jack Phillips again. Okay, so yeah, it was Jack Phillips, like I recalled. Although the Masterpiece Cake Shop owner won a resounding 7-2 decision in June before the U.S. Supreme Court. And our good friend Sahil Habibi, the progressive voice, is just reeing over that right now because for any of you who have been a longtime subscriber of the channel, you know I've made some response videos to Sahil Habibi, the progressive voice, on this very issue right here, on private property rights and so on. Okay. So, the state commission moved against Phillips after a lawyer asked him to design and bake a custom cake celebrating a gender transition, pink on the inside and blue on the outside. Phillips, who calls himself a cake artist, said the requested cake's message would violate his religious liberties or religious beliefs. Now, I can really sympathize with a person when they say that it violates their own religious beliefs. You are forcing that person to basically go against their own religion, to kind of sin against their proclaimed deity in order to do this. I mean, if, say, gender transitioning goes against their own beliefs, well, then subjectively, I can understand that. But that's not really the metric. That's not really the argument that I make in the argument to try and say that somebody has a right to deny service. I view it more as a private property rights issue, as so does my buddy S-Man Speaks, and he also views it as a freedom of association. Like a business owner doesn't want to associate with a customer of a certain type of sexuality and so on and so forth. The state is doubling down on its hostility against my beliefs, even though that's what the Supreme Court said they couldn't do, Phillips said in a prepared statement released by his lawyers. So not only in a moral and natural rights perspective here, but in a legal perspective as well, Phillips is in the right here. Well, actually, okay. I mean, morality is subjective, and I would not really view it as necessarily moral to just outright deny service on that. I mean, I'm not going to be here nor there on that. But on a natural rights perspective, he is in the right, and also on a legal perspective because the Supreme Court ruled on it, you know? Not to mean to make an appeal to law, but still. It seems I'm the only person in the state of Colorado who can't live out my beliefs. Okay, I don't approve of that statement right there. Like, that's kind of a bit of a victim mentality right there. And if I recall correctly, I think there might have been at least one, maybe two more people in Colorado who have had this type of circumstance brought against them, you know? I don't know. The religious liberty group Alliance Defending Freedom, which has represented Phillips since he turned down a gay couple's order 6 years ago for a cake celebrating the marriage, also represents him in a federal lawsuit filed late Tuesday to challenge the latest state action against him. Shortly after its Supreme Court loss, the State Civil Rights Commission informed Phillips that it found probable cause to believe that Colorado law requires his bakery in Lakewood to create the requested gender transition cake. I serve all customers, Phillips said once again in his formal statement. I simply decline to create custom cakes that express messages or celebrate events in violation of my deeply held beliefs. All right. Okay, I'm going to stop screen sharing here for a second. I want to check my Twitter. How's it going? Okay. Yeah. All right, I was just wanted to check my Twitter there because the Conundrum said that he was going to try to come along and join this stream, but unfortunately, oh man, he hadn't been on Twitter ever since the last time that I had asked him if he was going to come on Strike Force. This is a real bummer. Not once had I had the Conundrum as a co-host on this show. It's kind of a disappointment. And I've only one time had Sir Conservatarian on my show as a co-host. And now he's gone from the internet. He's busy with other stuff and does not want to get tied up with his with YouTube and his own personal life endeavors at the same time. Well, that's the story with Sir Conservatarian. He deleted his channel, deleted his original Twitter, and so on and so forth. And so now he's no longer on the show with us. JJ is filling out, although JJ isn't here right now, unfortunately. But yeah, it's also a disappointment with Conundrum. I mean, I wish he would come on. Okay. I already read those two paragraphs. According to Alliance Defending Freedom, a lawyer identified as Autumn Scardina asked Masterpiece Cake Shop to bake the gender transition cake on June 26, 2017. That was the same day the Supreme Court agreed to hear Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission, the case involving the wedding cake. Excuse me. We told him we'd sell him anything in the shop, but we could not create that cake because of the message it conveyed. Okay. So basically, the transgender person right here could have had a pre-baked cake. Just they would have to get their own icing in order to decorate it in a sort of way, however way that they wanted it. Anyways, Phillips said of the lawyer's request for the pink and blue cake, Justice Anthony Kennedy, in an opinion joined by 4 conservative justices and 2 liberal justices, ruled nearly a year later on June 4th that the Civil Rights Commission showed hostility toward Phillips and his faith in deciding he had violated state anti-discrimination law by declining to create the cake marking the same-sex marriage. Okay, I got a question. Does explicitly the law in Colorado say that you are not supposed to discriminate based on sexuality? Or does it just say you cannot discriminate based on race and religion and whatnot? Because as far as I know, if I can remember the 16th Amendment correctly, here I'm trying to pull out my Constitution, my pocket Constitution here. If I remember correctly, the 16th Amendment said that you cannot discriminate based on religion and race and so on and so forth. But it doesn't say anything about sex. So that is kind of open-ended. Oh, okay. So one of my newer subscribers, 40 ounces in the chat here, and I've been really considering on trying to subscribe to your channel, 40 ounce. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know why I hadn't subscribed yet. I mean, I don't like to get my subscriptions all spammed out and whatnot. But anyway, did you hear? Howdy, he says. Hello, 40 ounce. Did you hear that the cake shop is being sued again? I think it's going a bit far. Yeah, are you saying that it is after They're being sued again after this suing right here. Let me see here. Okay, never mind. That's the paragraph that I'm on. This was made back August 15th, 2018. So that was just like 4 days ago. Are you saying that within the time frame of in under 4 days that Jack Phillips is being sued again? Oh, 40 on says, don't worry about it, dude. I have a hard time watching all the people I sub to. All right. Amendment 16? No, maybe it was the 14th Amendment. I don't know. I would have to find the amendment again. That was made right after the Civil War. I think it was the Civil War anyways, that the government cannot discriminate based on race or religion, but did not mention anything about sexuality. So that was kind of open-ended as far as state law gone, at least. And 40 on says, and yes, they are being sued again. Oh, under the time frame of 4 days. Man, they're relentless. Is this really worth the time and effort? I mean, okay, have a sense of proportion here, people. There is like dozens of cake shops in Colorado, I'm sure, particularly in the city. Like, oh man, I cannot remember of which city it is that Jack Phillips is set up at. I think it was over a satanic cake, is what 40 ounce says. Thank you, 40 ounce. The thing is here. Oh, trying to gather up my train of thought here again. I can understand more if a person wants to sue somebody who has a larger monopoly over a certain area of the market. Like, for example, YouTube has a large monopoly over the market of speech platforms, online speech platforms, that being YouTube. But this one cake shop does not have a monopoly on that market. I mean, okay, keep in mind here, in principle, I am against net neutrality and for YouTube. By principle, I'm for YouTube by their own private property rights to be able to censor whoever they want. But I can at least understand more a person wanting to sue YouTube because they were kicked off of YouTube or whatever else have you. But I cannot understand a person going through this strenuous effort over a cake shop. Like, there are far more cake shops out there in the country, and even in the state of Colorado, maybe even in the city, than there are speech platforms on the internet like YouTube and so on and so forth. YouTube, BitChute, and really, I need to get myself a BitChute account in protest to YouTube, as all the other libertarians are these days. It's clear that the state of Colorado did not get the message from the Supreme Court, since it is still singling, I don't know why I said singing, since it is still singling out Jack for punishment and showing hostility toward his religious beliefs. Kristen Wagner, Senior Vice President for Alliance Defending Freedom, said in a formal statement. Okay, so if it really is Jack Phillips that they are primarily going after and that they're singling out, then really you keep this up, economic leftists, you're going to make him a very popular man to the point that he might get himself a bigger business. I mean, if you really want the guy to not be in the media anymore, to not be in business, well, then just boycott him. I mean, is he really that powerful of a business that's hard to avoid boycotting him and he'll stay in business despite a small boycott? No, I don't think so. Scardina, the lawyer who requested the cake celebrating a gender transition, is not a defendant in Phillips's lawsuit. The baker is suing the state commission's members in their official capacities, as well as suing its director personally. In moving ahead on this new complaint, the government is yet again confirming that it applies its law in an arbitrary and unequal way. Whoa. Yeah, that would be grounds for suing against the government. Like, holy crap. Which the Supreme Court has already said that it cannot do. Wagner, who argued Phillips's case December 5th, before the High Court, said, Jack and other creative professionals should not be targeted by the government for living consistently with their religious beliefs, she said. As a policy, Phillips's lawyers note, Masterpiece Cake Shop also does not make custom cakes that celebrate Halloween, that center on alcohol or drug abuse or sexual themes, or that convey disparaging messages, including those targeting lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals, or others in the LGBT movement. Okay, let me read that again because my reading comprehension skills are not the best. As a policy, Phillips's lawyers note Masterpiece Cake Shop also does not make custom cakes that celebrate Halloween, that center on alcohol or drug abuse or sexual themes, or that convey disparaging messages, including those targeting LGBT. Okay, I gotcha. Phillips said, the Bible tells us God created us male and female, and I believe that. A gender transition cake is not something I've ever made, and it's not an event I could celebrate. There are plenty of messages I won't convey on a cake. I've turned down requests to make anti-American cakes, cakes disparaging the LGBT community, as well as those glorifying drug and alcohol use, mistreatment of women, divorce, and more. Okay, so the guy seems to kind of want to remain neutral in the debate on the LGBT community. He doesn't want to support them by baking their cakes and decorating their cakes for them, more specifically decorating them in a specific fashion for them, nor does he want to decorate cakes in a specific fashion that goes against them. Like say, oh, you're going to catch HIV/AIDS if you keep this up, or something like that, that an LGBT person could likely view as disparaging. In the case, Phillips won before the Supreme Court. His lawyers stress the state of Colorado admitted that cake artists are free to decline to create custom cakes with a specific design, including wedding cakes with a symbol of gay pride, cakes that contain pro-gay designs or inscriptions, or cakes with images opposing same-sex marriage. Yeah, like I said, neutral. Okay, we're coming to the end pretty shortly. The state has not found probable cause when other bakers refuse to create custom cakes, including those opposing same-sex weddings. The arbitrary basis on which the commission is applying the law makes it clear that they are simply targeting Jack because they don't like his religious beliefs. Wagner said, Jack shouldn't have to fear government hostility when he opens his shop for business each day. We're asking the court to put a stop to that. Okay, this report has been updated to include the name of the lawyer who requested the gender transition cake. All right. So yeah, the government has no job to get involved with whether or not a privately owned business wants to deny service. Excuse me there, I had to take a swig of my water. Anyway, I probably should have said this at the beginning of today's program, but also what I have in the news article-wise is Muslim man sentenced to death for honor killings in Texas. And maybe I should rearrange what I read in what order, because I also have Iran's unwavering support to Assad, Syria. This is kind of in relation to the last episode of Strike Force that I had, where we were talking about Iran. I'm trying to remember what the exact story was. It was Iran upping their military strength if or no. They were refusing to talk to the United States and were upping their military strength, and the conversations somehow came up that Iran supports Syria by giving them money. And so I Googled up some articles talking about how Iran is supporting Assad, Syria. And this is one of the things I came up with. And so I wanted to read that. This is kind of relevant to Tuesday's program of Strike Force. And then Trump's, no thanks. And then from Forbes, Trump's new Medicare rule to reduce prescription drug prices through competition. Excuse me. I want to save that for last because it'll probably be the most longest, dragging out, boring article for my audience, at least. But for right now, Muslim man sentenced to death for honor killings in Texas by Michael W. Chapman of CNSnews.com. A Muslim man who immigrated from Jordan to the United States was found guilty of participating in an honor killing plot, including a plan to kill his own daughter for converting to Christianity, and was sentenced to death by a jury in Houston on Tuesday. As I believe he should, morally anyways. I believe in the death penalty for murderers and so on and so forth. I mean, yes, there are the death penalty sentencing process gets kind of messy, and we run a risk as it stands right now of convicting somebody who is innocent of murder and charge them with the death penalty. That is where that I would want the death penalty to be reformed. But by principle, if we can find somebody if we can like definitely confirm that's a person who is being held in court did in fact kill somebody, or more specifically, even more pressing, a large amount of people, then yeah, I believe they should get the death penalty. Not worth keeping a piece of shit like that alive. And I don't think it should require a whole lot of investigation if you have like solid evidence already that they are the killer. So that would make it fairly cheap as well, or at least in my layman's perspective anyways. Although the honor killings were to include 5 victims, the Muslim father, Ali Mawood Awad Ursan, was also found guilty of murdering his daughter Nesreen's new husband, Cody Beavers, 28, and her best friend, Galare Bagherzadeh, if that's how you pronounce that, 30, reported the Houston Chronicle. I'm probably going to butcher these names for the most part. Ali Mawood Awad Ursan apparently was enraged over his daughter's conversion from Islam to Christianity. Of course. This is why you need people need to adapt to the culture so that they can understand the concept of religious liberty. Excuse me. Instead of like dragging their mentality with them from their native country, their authoritarian beliefs on religion, and that they should enforce one type of religion, carrying that mindset with them when they immigrate into a different country. Instead of doing that, apparently was enraged. Her marriage to a Christian and for her leaving home. He apparently wanted to wash his honor in blood, the jury was told. Oh, God. At the sentencing, Cody Beavers' mother read a victim impact statement, reported the Chronicle, in which she said, on November 12, 2012, Ali Ursan and his family destroyed life as we knew it forever. That was the day they ambushed and murdered Cody, to restore honor to someone who never had any. A friend of victim Galare Bagherzadeh told the court, by taking Galare away from us, they took away a true human being who would have helped anyone in any way that crossed her path throughout her life. They took something good from our society. And I guess this is Galare Bagherzadeh. He doesn't look that Arabian, if I'm to be quite honest. I mean, that's just my observation. During the trial, prosecutor John Stevenson said of Ursan, he wanted to kill her, Nesreen, but he wanted to kill all those she loved first, so that she would suffer that much more before she died. You sick fuck. Yep, death penalty. The Chronicle also reported that during the trial, one of Ursan's daughters also testified that he cheered the 9/11 attacks on America and praised Osama bin Laden and told his children they should volunteer to become suicide bombers. By the way, question to you, 40 ounce, if you are still listening in the chat there. Like, what do you think of the death penalty, by the way? Although the trial took more than 5 weeks, the jury deliberated less than an hour to determine Ursan's fate. Honor killing victim Cody Beavers YouTube, and actually, I don't know if that's 40 ounce in the that's watching this right now. Whoever it is watching, what do you think of the death penalty yourself? In Texas, a death penalty sentence is decided by the jury, not the judge, and the death sentence must be unanimous. The death is executed by lethal injection since 1976. Texas has executed 553 criminals. Okay, yeah. Apparently, the evidence was so overwhelming against this guy to the point that the entire jury just unanimously decided, yeah, death penalty. That kind of really outlines of how overwhelming the evidence was. Just my opinion. All right, so Iran's unwavering support to Assad's Syria. Now, the question that was outlined in last Strike Force was, is there actual evidence? Because the CNS News article that I had read last Tuesday was not providing any evidence as to if Iran was actually giving money to the Assad regime in Syria. Okay, 40 ounce says in the chat, I'm for it in a limited state. That being said, the process needs to be expedited. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it should be expedited and cheapened. Otherwise, it would ultimately not be worth it on a monetary perspective. It would be more worth it to give them a death sentence than to kill them. If there is a certain point of it taking too long, there being so much expensive investigation and so on and so forth. Throughout the current war in Syria, Iran has remained a steadfast supporter of the Bashar al-Assad regime. The surprising endurance of the Iran-Syria alliance is made more striking by the fact that it is based on neither shared national interests nor religious values, but is rather a tactical cum strategic partnership. What the fuck? Tactical cum strategic. Is that really a term? Like, I'm sorry. I mean, excuse me, everybody, for having my mind in the gutter right here, but they literally spell cum like C-U-M. Oh, please tell me that's a typo. Holy shit. I don't want to be reading a porno out on my show. I'll get this stream flagged. Oh, God. Anyway, partnership between two authoritarian regimes. Mutual contempt for Saddam Hussein's Iraq brought Syria and Iran together in 1980, and mutual fear and loathing of the United States and Israel has helped sustain their alliance. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, for them to, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the real reasoning for why they decided to ally with each other, why their relationships were brought closer together because of Saddam Hussein, but that would make, I don't know. I would guess that would make sense. That would at least make more sense than just outright claiming that Iran did give money to Syria. Iran initially supported the popular uprisings in the Middle East, calling them Islamic awakenings. When it appeared that only Western allied Arab autocracies in Tunisia, Egypt, and Yemen were vulnerable to collapse. In Syria, however, Tehran has offered unwavering support to the embattled al-Assad regime and denounced the Syrian opposition as terrorists, quote-unquote, supported by a motley alliance of Gulf Arab states, Israel, and the United States. Senior Iranian figures, such as former Foreign Minister Ali Akbar Velayati, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, have referred to Syria as a golden ring of resistance against Israel. And Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei confidant Mehdi Taib said that Syria is Iran's 35th province. If we lose Syria, we won't be able to hold Tehran. That's kind of confusing to me. I do not understand as to how exactly they would be essential to you. They would be essential to you holding your own power. I don't get that, but whatever. I can never understand the logic of authoritarian Sharia supporting psychopaths. I'll just leave it that way for right now. Okay. Without Iranian military aid and financial largesse, al-Assad's regime may have fallen long ago. This article examines the factors driving Iran's support for the al-Assad regime, including its concern over the alternatives. It argues that despite Iran's economic travails and the surprise election of moderate, quote-unquote, cleric Hassan Rouhani as Iran's new president, Tehran's political, financial, and military support for the al-Assad regime is unlikely to waver. Okay, so I would just want to see very quickly, how long is this article? It's kind of lengthy, but it ain't too long. Not as long as a lot of the articles that Forbes would get, which is why I'm saving it for last. Strategic interests at stake in Syria. Syria has been Tehran's only consistent ally since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, whereas the rest of the Arab world supported and in some cases bankrolled Saddam Hussein during the Iran-Iraq War. Hafez al-Assad's Syria. Wait, is that his full name? Hafez al-Assad. I guess so. Or maybe it's pronounced Hafiz. I don't know. Actually, that would make more sense. Hafiz al-Assad's Syria sided with Tehran, while Iranian and Syrian tactical interests have occasionally diverged during the last 3 decades. On a macro strategic issues, the two regimes have more often worked in unison. Beyond its political support, Syria is also critical to Iran in that it provides it a geographic thoroughfare to Lebanese Shia militia Hizb-Allah. Yeah, excuse my butchering, sorry, but I'm trying my best to pronounce these. Which is one of the crown jewels of the Iranian Revolution. Both Syria and Hizb-Allah are crucial elements of Iran's resistance alliance, and much of Hizb-Allah's armaments are thought to emanate from Iran via the Damascus airport. Iranian motivations in keeping the al-Assad regime in power are also driven by deep concerns about the composition of a post-Assad government. Given Syria's overwhelming Sunni Arab demographic majority, Iran fears the prospect of Syria being rendered a Sunni sectarian regime aligned with Saudi Arabia or the United States and hostile to Shia Iran, excuse me. While visiting Damascus in August 2012, former Iranian Supreme National Security Advisor Saeed Jalili, if that's how you pronounce it, stated that Iran will absolutely not allow the axis of resistance, of which it considers Iran to be a main pillar, to be broken in any way. In other words, if the ends are opposing the United States and Israel, almost any means are justified. Hello, Loudmouth. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Everybody, I would like to introduce the intellectual Loudmouth Reviews.
Thank you.
Like, really, I liked your, I just gotta say, and I want to say it in person, I really liked your performance against cultural boomerists in that one episode of Poor Bastards.
Cultural boomerists. Refresh my memory.
It was the one debate about Palestine and Israel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy just seemed to be in complete denial as to what makes a better country. He thinks that because you say better and not fully good, that therefore your argument is completely irrelevant. And it's like, anyways, sorry.
Yeah, listening to stats of it, how Israel performs versus how the Muslim world performs. How Israel on average, the average Israeli is about 1,000 times more likely to make a valid scientific contribution than the average citizen of 57 Muslim majority nations.
Yeah, and cultural boomers seem to have been in denial of that. I mean, all that he could say in response to both you and S-Man on, because it eventually diverged into like a debate on race as well. He could not say anything to you, Brendan, or S-Man, except you guys are full of shit. He was just being in denial and did not have any legitimate response.
I'm kind of used to that.
I have to make like a live stream highlights of that debate in that 8-hour-long stream. Damn, S-Man broke a new record with that stream.
Yeah, I was only there for a tiny portion of it.
Right. So anyway, in this episode of Strike Force, I just got done reading another article that focuses around Jack Phillips, famous Christian baker who refuses to service LGBT people. And then there was like a Muslim man sentenced to death for honor killings in Texas, unanimously by the jury. So he's probably definitely getting it. And now we're talking about Iran's support of Syria. And next we'll be talking about Trump's new Medicare rule. Yeah. Although that one will probably be quite lengthy and I probably won't get through it as much. But anyway, Iran's level of involvement in Syria. While Iran's major role in Syria is undeniable, it is impossible to discern Tehran's precise financial and military assistance to the al-Assad regime. According to official estimates, Iran's annual trade with Syria is only around $700 million per year. Okay, but that's still like a lot of money for such small countries, I would say, which is less than half of its trade with Afghanistan and a small fraction of its $30 billion trade with China. This figure, however, does not take into account the subsidized oil Iran has provided Syria since 1982, when Damascus agreed to close Iraq's oil pipeline through Syria and Tehran. $30 billion trade with Iran. That would make it makes sense now as to why China would get pissed off at the United States for withdrawing from the Iranian nuclear deal. But yeah. And so the reason why I'm reading this article is because last episode of Strike Force on Tuesday, I was reading an article that was not really from CNS News that wasn't really providing any evidence, substantial evidence as to how Iran is giving financial support to Syria. But now this article is being a little bit more precise. I mean, what have you known about Iran supporting Syria, Assad's Syria?
There's no doubt they do. Yeah, there's no doubt Iran has supported a lot of terrorist organizations such as Hezbollah and others throughout the region.
Right. I mean, I just find it, I mean, knowing this information, I'm finding it amusing that some certain leftists would not really consider Iran to be a threat. I mean, they might not be a threat so much to the point that we have to like get militarily involved, and they might not even be as much of a threat as Saudi Arabia, as they'll usually point out to, which I would agree with. But for them to say that Iran is not or absolutely not a threat, it seems ridiculous going off of this. Since the tumult began in Syria, Iranian financial largesse has been ever more critical. In January 2013, Syrian state media announced a $1 billion credit facility agreement with Iran. 5 months later, Syrian officials announced that Iran would provide Damascus an additional $3.6 billion line of credit to finance the purchase of petrol, like petroleum, and associated products. I don't know. Maybe petrol is like technically different from petroleum. I don't know the terminology of that. Anyway, but that's what I understand it to be currently, is that petrol is just a shorter term for petroleum. Iran has also offered Syria conventional and unconventional military aid and intelligence training and cooperation to help quell popular unrest. According to both the U.S. government reports and Iranian official statements, Tehran has helped create a 50,000-strong Syrian paramilitary group known as Jaish al-Shabi, the People's Army, to aid Syrian government forces. Wow. This is some deep stuff right here, people. Similar to other Iranian strategic outposts in countries undergoing tumult, such as Iraq and Afghanistan, it is the elite wing of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, known as the Quds Force, that oversees Tehran's activities in Syria, not the Iranian Foreign Ministry. Defected former Syrian Prime Minister Riyad Hijab went so far as to say that Syria is occupied by the Iranian regime. Wow.
That seems to be a bit of hyperbole.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, there's no significant evidence to say that Assad is just a straight-up puppet for Rouhani or Khamenei of Tehran.
Yeah, he probably wants to have Iran, have good relations with Iran, as well as other places like Russia and what have you. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's nothing but a puppet for Iran.
Right. The U.S. Treasury Department sanctioned Soleimani and Operations and Training Commander Mohsen Chizari for their role in the violent repression against the Syrian people. Iran has also allegedly dispatched IRGC ground forces to Syria with experience suppressing popular unrest in provincial areas within Iran, such as ethnic and tribal insurgencies. Dozens of these forces were allegedly kidnapped by anti-Assad rebels in August 2012, only to be released later as part of a prisoner exchange. While Tehran alleges that they were religious pilgrims, evidence suggests otherwise. Iran also reportedly helped Syria expand its chemical weapons arsenal. Iranian support for Syria's chemical weapons programs has allegedly included the deployment of Iranian scientists, the supply of equipment and precursor chemicals, and technical training. In addition to financial and military support, during the last 3 decades, Iran has made a concerted effort to forge cultural and religious bonds between the Iranian and Syrian populations by offering its citizens heavily subsidized flight and hotel packages to Syria. Millions of Iranian religious tourists, have visited the Saida Saida, Zainab,
Yeah, I think
Shia,
that was
Shrine,
what
and
was
Damascus.
known as a Freudian slip right there.
What?
When you accidentally mispronounce Taurus as terrorists, that was a bit of what's known as a Freudian slip.
I see. A funny story. One time I had heard Big Bird from Sesame Street. Yeah, this was like a long time ago. Actually, say tourist. Like never listened to a two-headed tourist, and I was misunderstanding the word. I thought he was saying terrorist.
Oh,
That was quite odd. Like Sesame Street talking about terrorism. That's
I
not
don't know. All
exactly
the big
G-rated.
issues that Big Bird will say. I mean, we got that movie coming out. What is it? The Happy Time Murders, about what the Sesame Street cast do in their downtime.
Wait, what?
You didn't see that in those trailers? It's this R-rated movie. But
I've been seeing Happy Time Murders, but I did not think that it was Sesame Street related. I thought it was an entirely different franchise of Muppet puppets.
well, it is, but clearly they're meant to be reminiscent of Sesame Street characters. You won't actually see any of the actual characters in the movie.
Okay, so they're based off of Sesame Street characters?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
That's basically what it is. It's even in the slogan, no sesame, just street.
Yeah, I get you.
It's basically, it's targeting adults who grew up on Sesame Street, and they think having Sesame Street-esque characters in adult situations is inherently funny.
Actually, I am finding that amusing just now.
I mean, it might be good. It might be a piece of crap. Who knows? I mean, that alone does not make for a good movie. It also has to be well written. That remains to be seen.
Well, on the surface, the way that you were explaining it, it just seems amusing in an ironic fashion.
That clearly was what they were going for.
Okay. Anyways. Challenges and opportunities. Iran's greatest challenge is sustaining its large financial aid to Syria while simultaneously enduring draconian international sanctions in place due to its nuclear ambitions that have cut its oil exports by half. One Arab official estimated that Tehran is spending as much as 600 to 700 million per month to keep al-Assad solvent. Absent a nuclear deal that reduces economic sanctions and allows Iran to increase its production and export more oil, Tehran's financial support for Syria could be viewed with increasing scrutiny at home by a population chafing under external economic pressure and internal mismanagement. Apart from its financial burden, Iran's support for Syria has caused it great reputational harm in the predominantly Sunni Arab world, whereas several years ago, Shia Persian Iran was able to transcend ethnic and sectarian divides by appealing to popular Arab outrage against the U.S.-led war in Iraq or the 2006 Israeli invasion of Lebanon. Today, Iran is increasingly perceived by Sunni Arabs as a nefarious sectarian actor. Lebanese Hizbi Allah has suffered a similar fate due to its support of al-Assad. If the al-Assad regime loses Damascus, Tehran will face a difficult strategic decision, whether to preserve a sphere of influence by supporting a predominantly Alawite, however you pronounce that, militia representing only a small fraction of Syrian society, or to befriend the Sunni rebels poised to wield authority in Damascus. Contrary to conventional wisdom, what is most important for Iran is not the sectarian composition of Syria's future leaders, but a like-minded ideological worldview premised on resistance to the United States and Israel. As Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei once said, "We will support and help any nations, any groups fighting against the Zionist regime across the world." Zionist regime! Now he's starting to sound like an Illuminati conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, it's really funny that Israel's existence pisses them off so much, because if the Middle East was a football field, Israel would be the size of a postage stamp. You can't even see Israel on maps. Israel at its thinnest point can be walked across within a few hours. Like, it's only 12 miles across.
Yeah, although I don't know if the size of the actual country would be relevant to their argument.
But my point is, it kind of does show that anti-Semitism really does come into play far more than any perceived historical slight of that land.
Right. I mean, what would you have to say to a conspiracy theorist who would say in response to that? No, when we say Zionist regime, we're talking about Jews that live all over the world, not just in Israel.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, really. That hits the nail on the head. It's entirely due to anti-Semitism. One of the scariest articles I ever read was how deep and insane Islamic conspiracy theories against Jews are. When there was a series of shark attacks off the coast of Egypt, I am not fucking kidding, there was an effort to kill sharks off the coast, but also to check them for any controlling devices that were put on them by Israel. They actually fucking believed that Israel might be controlling sharks and sending them to attack beachgoers in Egypt.
Wow, that's some real B-movie type shit there.
It really is, but that's the thing. These people don't live in the real world. The world's like a Harry Potter novel to these people.
Right. And what sickens me the most about Illuminati conspiracy theorists is that they be talking about Jews like they're some massive collective, like they all agree with one another. Like Ben Shapiro agrees with George Soros and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Which is some of the most ridiculous shit. I mean, I want to take, unlike the conspiracy theorists, I want to take the bad Jews on an individual scale, on a subjectively individual scale, not a collective, broad brush stroking scale.
Correct. And another one that was also pretty insane was in Syria. They captured a stork that had a mechanical device attached to its leg, and they believed that Israel was using storks to spy on them, that they were putting mechanical devices in birds so that all the birds around them were actually Israeli spies. Turns out the mechanical device on the stork's foot was put there actually by French scientists to track the bird's migratory patterns.
Paranoia run amok. And see...
Yeah, the birds are controlled by the Jews. You know? It's fucking insane. Why you can't reason with these people? They're unhinged. They're nuts.
I guess I'm part of the Illuminati now myself.
I guess so,
yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, in extension to that, on one of my Discord servers that I'm on, because I joined a crap ton of other Discord servers while I was on my hiatus, substituting it with Twitter. One of the guys in that server, I kid you not, said that he literally wants to kill every Jew that he comes across. And I said in response, dude, you're a literal psychopath if you literally think that way. And the guy was excusing, well, I do not know if he was actually trying to excuse himself, but he was saying, well, I have mental disease, I am a psychopath. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that does not excuse your behavior.
Like, you have a mental disease that makes you a danger to society, then that should be grounds for you being committed.
Right. I mean...
All right, people like that shouldn't be walking free.
He was talking about his depression and so on and so forth, and I was thinking to myself, just because you're depressed doesn't mean that you should take your depression out on other people by especially being physical about it.
I don't try to bring others down to raise my spirits. Like right now, I've been having a lot of trouble with my new puppy. She's got some behavioral issues. She bites.
Oh, yeah, I think I noticed... was that one upload that you uploaded and then you took down immediately, like in under a minute afterwards?
What it was I've been uploading videos unlisted from my phone so that I could compile them on my computer.
Oh, okay.
That's basically how it was.
Yeah,
for some reason, my software wasn't allowing me to copy videos from Twitter or Facebook, but it was from YouTube, so I had to upload them to YouTube. So I'm basically trying to make a compilation puppy video of my puppy.
I gotcha.
I mean, most of the time she's cute and friendly, but sometimes she gets riled up and she bites. And I'm trying to work on how to correct her behavior. It has me nervous. Right now, she's just a little pup. She can't really do anything. But if she were to behave the way she's been behaving lately as a full-grown dog, she could be dangerous.
Man.
So
Well,
I'm scrambling to try to protect her behavior and make sure that when she is a full-grown dog, she'll be adjusted and know that that's not acceptable.
right. I wish you luck, and I'll even pray for you in that matter, because I would not want it to get down to drastic and rather negative measures, the way that you'll have to handle your puppy if she were to grow up fully.
I mean, if
Too.
she were to grow up, yeah, I couldn't keep her if she behaved like that as a
Yeah,
full-grown dog. I couldn't.
I was not one
No,
to
no one
mention
could.
that verbally.
No one could keep her. But I'm hoping this is just a little puppy phase she's going through right now.
Hopefully.
And I've got a training session. I'm gonna start scheduling with professional trainers to make sure that they to help correct her behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got way off track, and especially in the middle of this paragraph.
Sorry.
Continuing on, Iran's Sunni allies, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, are cases in point. Yet, despite sharing common enemies with some Syrian rebels, it may prove impossible for Iran to befriend the same forces it helped attack during the past 2 years. Anti-Shia, anti-Persian sentiment is rife among Syria's rebels, and the attraction of future Iranian financial support is eclipsed by the deeper pockets of Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Right? I mean, there's a lot of financial support that Saudi Arabia has given to terrorist groups as well. I mean, I do not know how much about Qatar. I mean, I know the Al Thani family, who are basically the royal family of Qatar, that they own AJ Plus and that they have their own litany of human rights abuses in their country. But I do not know how much they do outside, much less any general information talking about how they have an outside influence. Aside from AJ Plus, I mean. What is paramount for Tehran is that Syria remains an Iranian strategic resistance ally and a way station to Hezbollah in Lebanon, while Iran's ideal end state, the status quo ante, which is al-Assad regaining control over all Syrian territory, appears outside the realm of possibilities. For Tehran, the key questions are: how long can al-Assad hold Damascus? How much Iranian support will it require? And what happens if he loses power? According to one assessment, Iran's supply routes to Hezbollah via Syria could be maintained even if al-Assad only maintains control of Damascus, Homs, and the coast. If al-Assad falls, proxy groups might be able to protect supply lines if the opposition does not establish control over Syria's borders. I mean, that does make sense. I mean, if Iran was able to give all this help to Syria, military support, scientists, tech, and money, then it only makes sense to me that Iran would also be able to set up its own force or a proxy group to fill in the power vacuum of al-Assad. Implications of Rouhani's election in Iran. While Iran's alliance with the al-Assad regime has endured for more than 3 decades, the biggest question in the coming months is whether the surprise election of moderate, quote-unquote, cleric Hassan Rouhani will alter Iran's strategy in Syria. More specifically, does Rouhani have the will, ability, or interest in changing Iran's Syria policy? Publicly, Rouhani has expressed solidarity with the al-Assad regime, declaring in a recent meeting with visiting Syrian Prime Minister Wael al-Haki. Okay, I kind of always understood al-Assad to be the leader, the official leader of Syria, excuse me, but I don't know, apparently not. It's the Prime Minister Wael al-Haki. That the Islamic Republic of Iran aims to strengthen its relations with Syria and will stand by it in facing all challenges. The deep strategic and historic relations between the people of Syria and Iran will not be shaken by any force in the world. I kind of wonder if the Iranian people inside the country approve of Rouhani being in support of the al-Assad regime and whatnot. In private, however, a former senior Rouhani aide was far more equivocal about Tehran's continued support for al-Assad. The best way to resolve U.S.-Iranian tensions in Syria, he argued, is to find a Syrian Karzai, a Sunni Arab politician palatable to Tehran, Washington, and the Syrian people. While Rouhani's desire to alter Iran's approach to Syria is questionable, his ability to do so is even more uncertain. The officials who manage Iran's Syria policy, namely current Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani, do not report to Rouhani, but answer to Ayatollah Khamenei. Given Syria's centrality to another indispensable resistance ally, Hizb-ut-Allah, one official Iranian source said that those who believe that Rouhani can alter Tehran's patronage of Hizb-ut-Allah are either naive or daydreamers. Whoever the president is, whoever the ministers are, Hizb-ut-Allah will still be the same Hizb-ut-Allah to Iran. Hizb-ut-Allah to Iran isn't a card to play with. Hizb-ut-Allah today is the crown jewel of the resistance bloc. Presidential moderation doesn't mean giving up the nation's strength. In this context, it appears highly unlikely that Iran will abandon its support for the al-Assad regime in the near future. For U.S. policymakers, Iran's unabashed support for al-Assad is a mixed blessing. Iranian support prolongs al-Assad's shelf life and further tarnishes U.S.-Iran tension and mistrust, making a potential nuclear accommodation less likely. At the same time, it simultaneously darkens Iran's regional reputation among Sunnis and hemorrhages it financially, weakening its ability to project power and influence throughout the Middle East. Oh, wow. Them supporting a rather immoral regime, the al-Assad regime. I mean, you, Loudmouth, have mentioned before as to how you think that Trump has handled incorrectly, how he handled the nuclear deal incorrectly, trying to get out of it. But by principle, I don't think that the United States should have been dealt with in the first place. And this just is another further piece of evidence why I think we should have nothing to do with Iran.
Yeah, I can't disagree that Iran definitely are certainly a very bad actor in the region and certainly are very untrustworthy. But like I said, once the deal's done, you can't close the pens after the cows have already been unleashed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's that piece of evidence, and also there have been quotes from, I think it's Soleimani, maybe Rouhani, that was preaching death to America as well. Like, it doesn't make sense. Why are we supporting a country that wants to kill us? Or whose leaders want to kill us, I mean. Trump, actually, they would also be prompting their own followers, their own citizens, to also preach with them death to America. So it's kind of the country as an entirety. Maybe there are a minority of people who do not care much about the United States and would let us live, but still. Anyway, so Trump's new Medicare rule to reduce prescription drug prices through competition. Like, Loudmouth, I got to ask you, what is your overall opinion on Obamacare? I don't think I ever heard you talk about that specifically.
I opposed it because, for a very good reason, it kind of violates the whole principle of insurance. Okay, insurance has to be in and of itself a gamble. If you really think about it, all right. If you basically make it so that somebody can buy fire insurance after his house is burnt down, you really destroy the entire concept of insurance, and that's what Obamacare does.
Yeah, and I kind of view it as from a private property standpoint. Like, there are lots of regulations that it violates economic and private property liberties. Like, for example, forcing companies to insure their employees if they don't want to. Like, if you more specifically, if you get like over 50 employees, and telling people that they cannot have a certain type of health care coverage, people being dropped from their coverage because of these supposed junk plans, quote unquote, and practically forcing people to either get insurance or get fined through the nose via your tax returns.
Yeah, is anyone surprised the premiums go up when you cannot cover more people and lower costs at the same time? That's like trying to sit up and stand up at the same time. It's absurd that Obama would promise that. That's the really thing about Obama that pisses me off, the way Obama just flagrantly, constantly lied in order to sell it.
And there was also an article that I had read months ago from CNS News, saying that Obamacare was projected to like lower the amount of insurance company options that there were out there in the United States. So there is that as well.
Of course it does, because it puts
But
insurance
the claim
companies
was
in
it's
such dramatic regulation.
competition.
Yeah, it pretty much turns them into public utilities. They really are not able to compete in any kind of free market sense under Obamacare.
I would not put it that way, to turn them into public utilities. Like, that is what I view the NHS, like a pure Medicare for all, government runs all aspects of
Well,
healthcare.
honestly, it doesn't really even matter that much, because under the system we got right now, all right, the plans, the actual healthcare plans, are entirely made in Washington, all right, primarily by the IRS. All right, even if it's distributed through 1,000 different companies or distributed by a single payer system, is largely irrelevant at this point because of Obamacare.
Whoa. Really? These healthcare plans are being designed by Washington and not by the insurance companies?
Yeah, because it puts them under such strict regulatory control. They essentially can't really come up. They're restricted so immensely in their ability to come up with their own plans. For example, why does somebody who's young, okay, someone in their 20s, really should not have insurance for things like a dental office visit or a therapy appointment? All right. Insurance should be something only to cover things that are very unlikely to happen. Like, let's say you get into a freak accident, or your house burns down, or you get cancer in your 20s. Very unlikely things to happen, but they can. And that's what insurance should be for. Things that are routine and gonna happen really shouldn't be covered by insurance. Like, if your house burnt down every day, if every single day you came home from work, oh, my house burned down again, yay, all right, fire insurance would not serve a purpose, okay? But it only works, the model of it only works because your house burning down is not that likely to happen.
All right. I would like to see the news information that you had read that says that Washington is explicitly designing these.
Well, what I mean is less about explicitly designing, more regulating them to such a massive extent that they pretty much are. Not in an explicit way, but more like, well, pretty much.
Okay, so Washington isn't designing the plans for the companies, but they're forcing the insurance companies to redesign their own plans with these regulations.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And Humane Mind actually once brought up the point that insurance companies are a scam, that he would prefer health savings plans. And I haven't heard the full argument about that, but I guess if like somebody was to like really sit down with me on healthcare and explain how insurance companies are a bit of a scam, then
it's less a scam. Well, it more of they don't allow emergency only healthcare plans for young people, and they really should. Young people really shouldn't be insured, have an insurance copay for a doctor's checkup or a toothache. Okay, you should just pay for these things. Okay, yes, with a health saving account, that's what it should be. Okay, there shouldn't be a copay of the insurance company. You want a service, you pay for it. All right, well, like if you go on vacation, you go to hotels, you don't get in hotel insurance and have a copay with hotels. You pay what the hotel, charges for rent for that night. All right, that's how insurance for routine medical procedures should work. And Obamacare does the exact opposite. It twists things in the other direction.
You're quite articulate on this subject, Loudmouth, I gotta say.
Yeah, I try to be. I have to go cut my lawn before my mom brings my dog back, so unfortunately I have to blow out, but peace out.
See ya. All right, see you later, Loudmouth. All right, so now it is just me, and I am joined by S-Man Speaks.
How's it going? So I got back from Costco finally, and I've been like
your signal was shit on your phone.
I know my phone is shit, but the connection was shit. But what happened was, since I have returned, I've been like laughing my ass off, like kind of on the floor laughing.
In case anybody is wondering, by the way, S-Man joined before the stream went live, but he was not able to stay because of the crappy signal on his phone. And we were having a bit of a conversation, and we can like continue that conversation more
later.
yeah, more of when we go off air.
Yeah,
but
it won't make sense if people don't know what's going on. And honestly, I don't blame them. I don't think they'd want to know, and I can't blame them. So
yeah,
you're talking
just
about
drama bullshit.
So you're talking about Christian bakers and LGBT cakes and
yeah,
healthcare.
Too late for all that.
Okay, what you covering now?
Yeah, talking about healthcare, but we were talking about Christian bakers versus LGBT people, and then a Muslim man getting the death penalty, which you would have cheered that on rah rah if you were here for that. Because
what the fuck?
Position on death penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I do support capital punishment. Just at first, I'm like thinking, why are you saying I cheer that? Oh, yeah, I do support capital punishment, not because he's a Muslim or anything. I mean, just to be clear.
No. That's the implication I was trying to make.
I'm looking at the so Steve Shives was put in a white supremacist costume. I'm sorry, that's fucking funny.
Yeah, I've been seeing all those memes. And then there was the third article here was talking about foreign policy as Iran was supporting Syria with military aid and funds and scientists and tech and whatnot. And there's just quite damning information. Another reason as to why I think we shouldn't have, by principle, had the Iran nuclear deal because of how unprincipled Iran is. Plus they plus of how much they wish death upon us, the leaders and a good portion of the people. Death to America, death to America.
I think the approval rating of Iran in the eyes of Americans is like lower than the approval rating for Dick Cheney when he left office. I think it was around 13% approved of Cheney and approved of Iran in any way, shape, or form, or one of those Middle Eastern countries. But yeah. Okay, so I originally did agree in principle with the Iran nuclear deal, but the fact of the matter being is you look at all these sanctions we do against North Korea and it doesn't work. Iran doesn't work. All these things just don't work. These sanctions, and Humane made a great argument for actually doing trade with these countries. Which at first I was very hesitant and I hate to use the term skeptical about, but as time went on, I'm like,
recent debate stream on the Poor Bastards talking about protectionism.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because as we're talking about that, and it kind of tied into this, I'm like, that makes sense. Because if these people are like, oh, America's this imperialist, capitalist, and blah, blah, blah. If they're so evil, why the hell are they helping us? Even though they could let us starve to death. Why the hell is America, if they're so bad, why are they helping us? The only person who needs protectionism is like the only person that should lose their job to protectionism is Owen. I'm terrible.
Oh shit. So anyway, getting on with the article. Trump's new Medicare rule to reduce prescription drug prices through competition. This from Avik Roy of Forbes magazine. Andy Worski, you can suck my fucking dick. Earlier today, the Trump administration announced a new rule that will help reduce prescription drug prices for many seniors enrolled in the Medicare Advantage program. How does it work? By reforming a long-standing quirk in Medicare that prevented drug makers from competing with each other. All right. How competition lowers drug prices. When U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar announced the Trump administration's detailed plan to reduce high prescription drug prices, much of the press yawned because many journalists assumed that the only thing that can reduce drug prices is government-administered price controls. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people yawn at me whenever I get into the nitty-gritty details from a Forbes magazine of healthcare. That's why that I kind of saved this for last, so that people can get the exciting news. Listen to the exciting news first, and if they really want to, listen to me drone on about healthcare.
Yeah.
In contrast to that conventional wisdom, the plan contains a number of elegant and subtle In contrast to that conventional wisdom, the plan contains a number of elegant and subtle solutions that will enhance the role of competition and bring in drug prices down. All right, explain that. A surprising fact that few people know is that America leads the world in encouraging doctors and patients to use low-cost, high-value generic drugs. More than 4/5 of all prescriptions in the U.S. are for unbranded, off-patent, generic drugs that cost less than your typical bottle of mineral water. For people with run-of-the-mill medical issues like high blood pressure, early-stage diabetes, and high cholesterol, these inexpensive drugs are a tremendous boon to public health. Okay, supposedly I keep on hearing the claim as to how our pharmaceutical drug prices are so dang high, and people that would then bring up Australia as to how much more cheaper they are. So going off of this description, it just strikes odd to me. Like, on the one hand, I'm seeing this a bit of information that says that they're actually cheaper than a bottle of mineral water, for crying out loud. Anyway, the real problem in the U.S. is the high price of branded on-patent prescription drugs, in essence, legal monopolies, where manufacturers take advantage of their market power to change extremely high prices that are often divorced from the true from the true clinical and economic value of their underlying medicines. Medicare's outdated structure. Medicare was enacted in 1965 and is woefully ill-equipped to deal with advances in medical and pharmaceutical technology. The way Medicare covers prescription drugs is emblematic of the problem. For those who buy private sector health insurance on their own or obtain it from their employer, like I do, health insurance covers prescription drugs in an integrated fashion. Not so for Medicare, which runs 4 different insurance programs with different premiums and copays that cover different kinds of prescription drugs. Medicare Part A, what you might call the original Medicare program, covers hospital stays, including drugs that are administered, in the hospital. Do I hear you snickering in the background there, S-Man?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just reading, and I mean, it is kind of fuck. Okay, I'm gonna have to deal with that later. Over 100 new notifications on my backup Twitter, but yeah, no, I'm not.
I'm also seeing Cult of Ham is in the chat. He's all like, "Hey, Darky, read your Twitter DMs." I don't know. Maybe later, Cult of Ham. Right now, I'm in the middle of reading an article right here.
If Ham joined this stream officially, we'd be getting smear campaigns for fucking days.
Although these streams, these news streams right here, are more co-host and host specific, which does not really include Cold of Ham. So yeah, sorry, Cold of Ham. I mean, mind if I join? I mean, I would give you the invite if this was like a typical hangout stream, a ham or debate stream even, but this is like the news stream. It's more host and co-host specific. Okay, so I'm pulling up Twitter on my phone. I'll let that load up while I'm continuing reading here. Let's start the smear campaign early, Cult of Ham says. I might do a stream on my second account today if I'm filling up for it. I don't know. I see. A companion program, Medicare Part B, covers drugs administered in doctors' offices, such as drugs that require an intravenous infusion. Medicare Part C, also known as Medicare Advantage, is an increasingly popular privately administered Medicare program that covers the same services as Parts A and B. S-Man and Darky are racist for even acknowledging a racist, says Ham.
He can't even. At least Ham can actually. He can't come up with any racist names for me.
And by the way, I mean, I'm not going to go on long about it, but never mind. I'll tell you what I want.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry. Let's just deal with that off air. That's probably the best time to do it.
Yeah, we're gonna we're going to talk about the drama more privately, I guess, and maybe I'll give Cult of Ham an invite by then, but on air, I want to keep this strictly as a news stream. However, Medicare Parts A and B and C don't cover the vast range of drugs, usually in pill form, that patients obtain through retail pharmacies. That gap was closed under the passage of the Medicare Modernization Act of 2003, one of President George W. Bush's signature initiatives. The MMA created a fourth Medicare program, Part D, to cover retail prescription drugs. I'm going to have to read an article or something talking about George Bush's Medicare Modernization Act.
Yeah, because didn't he want to privatize Social Security?
I don't know. I mean, I do not hear much about that. Because I hear conservatives, I mean, more specifically Mark Levin, I hear more grassroots conservatives saying that they are not so approving of even George Bush's handling of healthcare, almost as much as they are disapproving of Obama's. Cold of Ham says, S-Man, did you know tacos are white culture? What?
What the? I did not know that.
They're white culture? I thought they were brown culture. Or
I can imagine. Yeah.
Maybe tacos are an American invention, just like fortune cookies are an American invention. Breaking news: S-Man and Darky are racist for denouncing the racist and transphobe Wilbur Fist Me Daddy Ham Called of Ham. How are we racist for denouncing you? I mean, that type of trolling doesn't even really make any sense, because you would have to be black or some other non-white for us to be technically considered racist. You must pay for your wasteism, Esmond says in the chat. Pills don't compete with intravenous infusions until now. Part D, in general, does a great job of leveraging competition among private insurers and drug companies to bring lower prices to seniors. That's why the program has come in massively under budget, the only healthcare entitlements to do so in U.S. history. But Medicare's design puts an arbitrary ceiling on competition because it prevents competition among retail drugs and those administered in doctors' offices and hospitals. For example, a number of multi-billion-dollar drugs for rheumatoid arthritis are administered in doctors' offices under Medicare Part B. Doctors receive a 6% commission on the average selling price, or ASP, of prescription drugs they administer in their offices, giving them a powerful incentive to steer patients to these drugs. I'm going to finish this section before I catch up with the chat, because that'll probably distract me too much. Thanks, Ham, you goofball. But a new generation of treatments for rheumatoid arthritis are oral drugs like Pfizer's Xeljanz, however you pronounce that, oh man, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word right there.
Wait, highlight it.
Through what? What do you say?
What did? Yeah, I can't pronounce that either.
Okay. And are financed through Medicare Part D. Because the various Medicare programs operate separately, seniors don't benefit from competition between Xeljanz and many of the older drugs covered under Medicare B. Similar programs exist in other disease areas where some drugs are administered as infusions and others as oral pills, including multiple sclerosis and psoriasis. Man, all this medical terminology, kind of hard to pronounce for me. Last year, in a paper published by the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity, I proposed that Congress fix this outdated structure by migrating to an integrated prescription drug benefit under Medicare Part D. The new Medicare rule is a major step in this direction by integrating the way Medicare pays for Part B and Part D drugs. Medicare drug competition offers seniors direct financial benefits. Okay, I said that I would catch up with the chat after that one section. We got only 2 more sections to go for, so I guess I'll finish this article. Anyways, okay. Says Tucker Carlson said tacos are not Mexican but white. Not joking. I don't know. I don't really care about that. I mean, it wouldn't really surprise me if some supposed Mexican inventions like tacos or even burritos were more American style, because like I said, Chinese fortune cookies are an American invention, even though they are are associated with Chinese culture, you know. But I would have to like see the source. What?
I can imagine an Asian DarkCon. That would be fucking funny.
Since Ham doesn't add the link, I'll trigger Ham. Single payer healthcare sucks. Gun control sucks. And Ham is a Keynesian. And Ham says, I'll get racism watchdog to really trigger you. Ham is a part of the KKK, says S-Man. And Ham says in response, Ham needs to be lynched and have his teeth knocked with a watermelon. Okay.
Oh my God, we're so going to hell.
Throw a watermelon at his teeth. I mean, I don't need
wait. I have a question. Why would you throw Owen's favorite food at Ham?
Oh, God. I don't know, to maybe get Ham's disgusting saliva all over it so that Owen won't want to eat it anymore. You know, like this food is perverted with the saliva of a raging racist. I can't eat it now. Anyway, under the new rules, seniors enrolled in Medicare Advantage Plans Part C who have also signed up for prescription drug coverage under Part D will now be able to benefit from competition among a broader range of medicines. The new rule allows Medicare Advantage plans to use step therapy, under which seniors might start with an oral drug paid for by Part D. If it's of equal clinical value but lower cost, and then step to a more expensive injectable drug if the first medicine fails to work. Insurers would be required to return at least half of the savings to seniors, possibly in the form of those Visa gift cards, often sold in grocery stores and pharmacies. This is a win-win for seniors and taxpayers. First off, seniors will benefit from more competition in the form of hard cash and lower insurance premiums, and lower average selling prices for Medicare Part B drugs will create savings for the entire Medicare program, while especially enhancing the value that Medicare Advantage plans can deliver for seniors. Okay? Under the president's leadership, for the first time ever, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services are bringing negotiations to physician-administered drugs and delivering on our promise to lower drug prices for patients, CMS Administrator Seema Verma said in a statement. For too long, Medicare Advantage plans have not had the tools to negotiate a better deal for patients. Today, we begin lifting those barriers so plans can use private sector tools to drive down the cost of expensive drugs while also offering new care coordination and drug adherence programs to ensure that patients are getting high quality care at lower costs. Okay, so these health officials, it sounds like that they are claiming that the way that it will lower prices is that they'll privatize certain aspects of Medicare services. You know,
yeah,
they're projecting that the free market will lower the prices. So on and so forth.
Yeah.
I mean, Cult of Ham will read about that in the chat, of course.
Of course, he'll have an aneurysm. He'll be aroused and offended. And basically, I just think that in total, if I'm not mistaken, isn't healthcare, what the fuck? Isn't Medicare and Medicaid doomed to fail in the next 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, and I would be for a reform to like keep it afloat for the more desperate aspects of our society, or at least, I don't know. I mean, it's such an in-depth and rather complicated subject that I would have to like sit down with a person for a long period of time to know the specifics of it. Okay. Let's power right through these last two paragraphs. Part of a larger effort, the Trump administration deserves credit for doing the unglamorous work of changing Medicare's Byzantine rules in ways that expand competition and choice and lower healthcare prices. In recent days, the administration has produced other new rules that will help small businesses and individuals purchase lower-cost health plans and propose site-neutral payment in order to prevent hospitals from overcharging for services delivered in hospital-owned clinics. You know, I like Avik Roy, but I really wish that he would have like provided some numbers as to how like the numbers in what way it has lowered healthcare prices specifically. It's not the kind of work that will garner as many headlines as the president's latest Twitter brouhaha, but it will make a difference for far more people. Yeah, I mean, it's always the sarcasm and the inarticulacy of Donald Trump that makes news waves more than the nitty-gritty economic details of his presidency and so on and so forth. That's been my observation, at least.
Yeah.
So, picking up from the chat, S-Man, yeah. Cult of Ham also says, S-Man is a racist for using a darky people stereotype against the black people, against the black. Okay. And Darky Khan is even more racist for not immediately deplatforming him. To kick or not to kick? I got the power right here. Ejection sounds so tempting. No.
You sound like you're about to nut.
I'm getting off on ejecting people. Oh, wait, no. That's S-Man because he does it all the time to Brandon.
You sounded like
Okay. S-Man says LOL, and Ham says, in continuation of his trolling, Darky Khan's not constant hate-filled tirade against Trump proves he's a white ethno-nationalist and wants to bring on the final solution. Yeah. I'm so fucking aroused and offended. And S-Man says, Ham is too racist for using to forbidden word. Cult of Ham says, forbidden word. No cum sock on the mic. Yep.
So I think
racism gets Darky Khan aroused. All right, so yeah, we will be ending this stream here pretty soon, but that was the news for all that I had for at least today and this week, this Sunday afternoon's edition of Strike Force News. And it gets Owen offended, S-Man speaks says in the chat, public chat. So yeah, I mean, anything that you would like to add, S-Man?
I saw the chat again. Yeah. So, I don't know. It was a shame I wasn't here for the majority of the stream, but from what I heard, I liked how Dark Khan analyzed the articles here. I'm glad to be here as always. And Ham, you are literally fucking Hitler.
Cult of Ham says Darky Khan's keyboard confuses me. Is it under the tabletop? Yes, it's right here. What the
I can see it.
The deal with the keyboard? It's a light up keyboard. It's a gaming keyboard. But anyway,
it's actually Dark Khan admitting he has the big gay because it's of the LGBT colors. See, guys, look at his keyboard.
Touche.
Hashtag dark. Ham's gonna put hashtag Darky Khan has the big gay.
Oh god. make that a hashtag on Twitter. Troll me some more.
But we'll all get called racist. So just do that old quote you did that got me to laugh my ass off at the time.
Owen, or S-Man, you should go and tell Owen to shut up and eat himself some fried chicken and watermelon.
Oh, we're so going to hell.
Oh, I didn't see the second door thing under it. Okay. Darky Khan is a homophobe. He throws the gays off rooftops. Okay. I'm not afraid to... I'm going to say this on air still. But if anybody is watching, anyone else aside from Ham, myself, and S-Man as we're watching the chat...
we're just joking.
What?
We're just joking about what the fuck we're reading, just to be clear.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course. But there's something that I kind of want to announce. I mean, everybody knows that I do these Strike Force editorials where it'll be like a shortened down version of Strike Force that like gets more to the point than these live streams do as far as the news information goes. I mean, and I like to announce, S-Man had his channel struck twice. And therefore, he's been forced to go into limbo with his channel as he's unlisted all of his videos and he's taken a hiatus. Maybe he'll do some stuff on his second channel. Maybe you'll do some stuff on your second channel, but it's not as big as my prime channel. So here's my announcement. since you're not one to take a risk with your main channel, and your second channel is much smaller, here's my offer to you, S-Man. You can you do article readings occasionally. My offer to you is if you want to occasionally do a Strike Force editorial yourself, you're more than welcome to upload an unlisted version of the video and send me the link so that I can upload it on my channel on public.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, or
article readings. I mean, not video responses.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. I had gotten
for example, the one article that you read about Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah. It was weird how I found out. I was watching a debate that was over 20 years old, yet it looked like they had a pop-out chat. And I noticed in that supposed pop-out chat, it said that I had gotten a strike, and I'm like, what? So I go to look at it, and I'm going to dispute it, and then I get a second strike, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to privatize everything, like the greedy capitalist I am, so I don't get another strike. Because if I did, I'd probably shit my pants, and I'd be like, well, I have no other choice but to use this smaller second account that I've not touched since that 3-on-2 debate.
All right. And so I'm going to end the stream very quickly, but in closing, to my audience, stay cool, stay informed, and in closing, Cold of Ham says Darky is serious about hating gays. Erect dick in one hand, report button in the other, and Brandon finally joined, says hello. Sorry, Brandon, we're about to close out the stream, so you're gonna have to watch this stream in post. But yeah, that's all I have. I am the Dark Conservatarian. S-Man
and I'm a S-Man Speaks.
Sorry, I should have
it's fine.
timed that better. But I'm the Dark Conservatarian. This is my co-host, S-Man
Speaks.
Stay tuned, stay awesome, and as always, God bless.